Hello students who are appearing in ISC 2026, economics exam is knocking at the door. It's on Monday, that means 23rd of March. Right at the beginning, I wish you all the best. You all will be performing very good. Now I am doing this session to give you certain tips. For the last time before the 2026 economics exam, some tips which I can, according to my capacity, which I can give, so that you may get some benefits from my tips. You may call it suggestions, you may call it tips, whatever. From national income chapter, a numerical sum is mandatory, it's compulsory, it will come. More probable, a sum may come where it will be using income method and expenditure method. Income method and expenditure method. I think this is more probable. Then GDP or GNP is not another theory question. This is GDP or GNP is not a true or good measure of welfare or economic welfare or welfare of the people of the country. Why? The reasons. This can be a question. Then two or three statements, either two or four statements can be given, and you may be asked whether these are to be considered in the calculation of national income or not. For that, the precautions while estimating national income by using different methods, the three methods, those precautions are very important. See, if you remember those precautions, then whatever these statements are given, you can relate to the question and the theory, that is the precautions. This is quite probable that two or four statements are given and you are asked whether these can be considered or will be considered, are considered in the calculation of national income or not. You have to give reason also. Like windfall gains or lottery prizes or rent of self-occupied houses or value of the goods which are produced by the farmers for self-consumption, like these and many others are there. So from the national income chapter, I think these are very important. It can be also important, like how do we get private income from national income, that relationship. How do we get personal income from private income, that relationship. Or how do we get personal disposable income from personal income, this sort of relationship they can give. Now I come to balance of payments and foreign exchange rate. In the balance of payments chapter, a question can be given: BOP must always balance theoretically. Explain why. This can be a question. You know the answer, that as in balance of payments record or in the balance of payments account, it follows double entry bookkeeping system, and equal value entries are made on the two sides, debit side and credit side, which are of equal values. So theoretically it is believed that the two sides totals must be equal. This can be a question. A very important topic in balance of payments is the components of balance of payments. That means the current account and the capital account. The transactions which are in the current account, you must know the four types of transactions: exports of goods, imports of goods, exports of services, imports of services, unilateral transfer receipts, unilateral transfer payments, income receipts, income payments, and then the capital account transactions, all sorts of capital, physical capital, financial capital, all receipts and payments. This components of balance of payments is very, very important. Now, about balance of trade. What is balance of trade? That definition or the meaning. And they can give a question like, in balance of trade, there may be deficit, but balance of payments is always balanced. How or why? See, in case of balance of payments, it involves all types of transactions like current account, capital account, that means exports of goods, exports of services, unilateral transfer receipts, unilateral transfer payments, then income receipts, income payments, and also capital account transactions. But in case of balance of trade, it is only the exports and imports, mainly exports and imports of visible items, that means goods. So, in case of balance of trade, there can be deficit. There can be deficit. But in case of balance of payments, it must always balance ultimately. Theoretically, it is believed. So this can be a question. Then a question can be distinguish between autonomous capital flows and accumulating capital flows. Autonomous capital flows and accumulating capital flows. This can be a question. Now regarding foreign exchange rate, a very important topic is flexible exchange rate system or floating exchange rate system. How is the foreign exchange rate determined? By flexible exchange rate system. Then meaning of depreciation, meaning of devaluation, meaning of appreciation, meaning of revaluation. A question can be given, why do you think devaluation can make the BOP recover from unfavorable situation? That means, how can devaluation or depreciation make the recovery from the deficit BOP, recovery from that deficit BOP situation? You know, when there is depreciation or devaluation done by the deliberate efforts of the central government or central bank of the country, then exports become cheaper, imports become costlier, and that is why exports will increase, imports will decrease, which will make the BOP recover from deficit BOP situation. This can be a question. This can be a question like, suppose they will give you two situations. Suppose $1 is equal to rupees 80, and after 2 days, $1 is equal to rupees 90. Then, what is happening here? If this is done by deliberate efforts of the central bank of the country, then that is devaluation. And if it is not specified in the question that such a thing occurs, that there is intervention or manipulation or intervention of the central bank for doing this, then that is depreciation. So from BOP chapter, this is my suggestion that these questions can come. Now I come to theory of income and employment. That's a very, very important chapter. Theory of income and employment, where they can give you a question regarding autonomous consumption. What is autonomous consumption? Then two features of Keynesian consumption function. Two features of Keynesian consumption function. Then how is the savings curve derived? Okay. Then relationship between APC and APS. Relationship between MPC and MPS. Okay. Then deficient demand situation and deflationary gap. Using diagram to illustrate that, and what type of government measures can tackle the situation and recover from that deflationary situation, deficient demand situation. Fiscal measures, monetary measures, both. Similarly, excess demand situation and inflationary gap. Excess demand situation and inflationary gap. For that, again, diagrammatic representation, and why does that situation arise? What sort of measures can be taken by the government to recover from that, to tackle inflation? Fiscal measures, monetary measures, both. Now, saving investment approach of determining equilibrium level of output and income. That is very important. Saving investment approach. See, they can give you aggregate demand, aggregate supply approach also, but I think saving investment approach can be more important. Next is investment multiplier, which is a very important thing. They can give you what is investment multiplier, but this is less probable this year, I think. They can give you a numerical sum based on investment multiplier. Numerical sum based on investment multiplier. That kind of sum can also come in an economy. Consumption C is equal to 100 plus 0.2 Y or 0.8 Y, and I is equal to 1000. Find out the equilibrium level of income and also find out the equilibrium consumption expenditure. Or they can give you the savings function and investment amount is given. Saving function, suppose minus 50 plus 0.6y. Investment I is equal to 1000. Find out the equilibrium level of income. Now if this question is given, savings function is given and investment is given, then you will equate S equal to I, because equilibrium condition is S equal to I, and you can find out the equilibrium level of income. That is finding out the unknown variable Y, like in a linear equation. Okay. Now here investment multipliers diagrammatic presentation, diagrammatic illustration, that the value of investment multiplier is greater than 1. This can be a question given with the help of a diagram. Using diagram, illustrate that the value of investment multiplier is greater than 1. Then how do we express investment multiplier in terms of MPC, or how do we express investment multiplier in terms of MPS? You know that investment multiplier, which is actually basically delta Y by delta I, is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC, and in terms of MPS, 1 by MPS. So these are the topics which I can suggest from this chapter, Theory of Income and Employment. Now we come to budget chapter. This is one of the shortest chapters. From budget chapter, firstly, components of government budget: revenue budget consisting of revenue receipts, revenue expenditures; capital budget consisting of capital receipts and capital expenditures. Know these terms, know the concepts, know the components very well into the depth. See students, for everything regarding the whole syllabus, one thing be sure that nowadays in economics they are not asking too much of direct straightforward questions. They are asking more of case study questions, giving a statement, and regarding the statement the question is asked, but in every case the question is definitely related to a concept that you have learned in any of the chapters, any of the topics. So if you have studied the concepts very well, if you are very clear about the concept, then go through the question properly and try to relate the concept in the question with the concept that you have learned. That is a very key thing here, very important factor here, that you have to relate the question's concept with the concept that you have learned in a particular chapter. Then you can answer the question. You have no scope in answering a question just by recalling the mucked up portion or the learned by heart portion. That is very rarely done now while question setting by the ISC question setters. Now in budget chapter I told about revenue receipts, revenue expenditures, capital receipts, capital expenditure. Then fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit. Very well you have to do this. Each of these three, the meaning, how do we get revenue deficit, how do we get fiscal deficit, and how do we get primary deficit from fiscal deficit. And also, please do remember to learn two implications of each of these three types of budget deficit. Two implications. Done. Now I come to money chapter. Okay, before money, inflation is a very short chapter. In inflation, they can give you demand pull inflation, cost push inflation. Demand pull inflation, cost push inflation. Now while answering demand pull inflation, the meaning, be sure to write that demand pull inflation is the inflation due to demand forces. When the aggregate demand is greater than the aggregate supply, there is excess demand at full employment situation. This is a must thing to write. Full employment situation. If you don't write, you will not get marks. Cost push inflation also, they can give a question regarding distinguishing between demand pull and cost push inflation, or simply what is demand pull inflation, what is cost push inflation. Okay, if they give something about wage push inflation, that is a form of cost push inflation. Profit push inflation, when increase in the profits to be retained by the company owner leads to inflation, when the same step of getting more profits by various industrialists and businessmen or producers in the entire economy will lead to inflation, then that is profit push inflation, which is also a form of cost push inflation. So this is about inflation which you need to do. Now money chapter. a very, very important topic will be, I think, measures of money supply in India. M1, M2, M3, M4. Yes, learn by heart fully, full-fledgedly, thoroughly. Now, regarding these, they can give you narrow money. What is narrow money? What is broad money? This can be given. What is high-powered money? M0, which is high-powered money. Now, if they give a question regarding high-powered money, please do remember to write that high-powered money is, it refers to the central bank money and the monetary base. This must be written. Central bank money or monetary base. All the currencies, all the currency notes and coins which are issued by the central bank, those are referred to as high-powered money, M0. And that is called central bank money or monetary base. Now, functions of money is very important. Primary functions, secondary functions, contingent functions, these are also very important. And also, types of money. Types of money. Fiat money, legal tender, unlimited legal tender, limited legal tender. Now, they can give a question like token money, which is also can be considered as fiduciary money. Now, fiduciary money or token money, what is that? Coins, metal coins, in which the face value or the market value of the coin, of the currency coin, is the face value is greater than its metallic value, that is the material value. That is fiduciary money or token money. So in money chapter this. Next we come to fiscal policy. What is fiscal policy? And then the tax. Tax part is very important. I think it's very probable. Proportional, progressive, regressive, digressive. They can distinguish between, or a slab is given, the tax slabs are given, income taxation slabs, and which type of tax is depicted here, draw the diagram to illustrate. And that can be a case of digressive tax. I think that's quite important, or it can come digressive tax, where initially the tax rate increases when the income increases, and after a certain level, income may increase but tax rate remains same. This can be a question. Then direct tax, indirect tax. Distinguish between direct tax, indirect tax. What is the difference between impact of tax and incidence of tax? This. About public expenditure. Public expenditure. They can give how public expenditure can be utilized to reduce income inequality, or how can public expenditure can be utilized? How can public expenditure be utilized to reduce inflation? This kind of question can be given. Now, regarding public debt, the most important topic here is the methods of public debt redemption. All the methods you will learn, every point, all the points, all the methods. Now, regarding capital levy, this particular method is used all of a sudden, suddenly can be used by government in a crisis situation. Crisis. And then about refunding, debt conversion, sinking fund, these are to be written in the proper form, in the proper way you have to write if the question comes. So methods of public debt redemption, like refunding. In order to repay old debts, old loans, when the government sells new bonds and takes new loans, that is refunding. Debt conversion, when the government converts the high interest bonds into low interest bonds at present, just to save some money and utilize that money to pay back the outstanding dues or previous loans, then that is debt conversion. Sinking fund, that means when the government makes a separate fund, and every year, every month, every year, the government pools, that means deposits some amount of money from its revenue receipts into that fund, which is separately created, exclusively created for giving back the loans. Then after 3 years, after 2 years, after 4 years, whatever, then the government opens that fund, and with the help of that money which was accumulated, stored, the government can repay the previous loans along with interest. So this is from public debt. Now I come to forms of market. From this chapter, my prediction, you can say, is features which can be comparison between monopolistic competition and oligopoly. Monopolistic competition and oligopoly. And they can also ask you question where it will be an application based question where advertisement, brand names, selling costs, these can be depicted in the example. And with the help of that example where the case of advertisement, brand names, branding, brand names, selling costs, these are depicted there in the example, and with the help of that the question can be asked. So be sure that you know the differences, you know the features for these. And they can also ask you a question where again features and the applications in case of monopoly. They can also ask you regarding monopoly price discrimination, where an example can illustrate the case of price discrimination, and they can ask you a question regarding that, and the type of market in which price discrimination is practiced is monopoly. This is my prediction or forecasting, or you can say suggestion regarding the forms of market chapter. Now if I come to the chapter of price and output determination under perfect competition, then see, shutdown point, break-even point, very, very important. Shutdown point, what is shutdown point? Condition, diagram. Why is it called shutdown point? Break-even point, condition, diagram. Why is it called break-even point? Now one question, it's my impulse, it's my feeling that they can give a question like this, that if a firm under perfect competition is running under loss in the short run, still it can continue its business operations. Why or how? Explain that using diagram. Then you have to make that diagram where you are depicting, you are presenting the case of loss in the short run. AC curve is above the price line, EVC curve is below the price line, then the total revenue is greater than total variable cost, TR is greater than total TVC, but TR is less than TC. So this diagram you have to explain. Okay, so this is from this chapter which I feel it's important. Now from producer's equilibrium, there are only two topics, but I feel this year TRTC approach, total revenue, total cost approach is more important. Now if I move on to laws of returns chapter, production laws of returns, then one question can come, give two differences between laws of returns to a variable factor and laws of returns to scale. Returns to a variable factor, returns to scale. This can be a question. Okay. Give two situations, take two situations in which the law of variable proportions is not valid, cannot be applicable. Okay, two situations in which the law of returns to a variable factor is not applicable. Now, I'm telling about two questions which can be important, like relationship between AP and MP, relationship between TP and MP. This can be important. And also definitely that is very important. They can give a 6 marks question even. Behavior of TP, AP and MP, or explanation of the three stages in the short run. Now from this analysis also they can give some short questions extracted, like which stage out of the three stages is the best stage, or which stage is to be considered, can be considered as the nonsense stage. Which one? The third stage. Stage 3 can be considered as a stage of nonsense, that is not possible, absolutely not possible, because the firm will be incurring loss because the total output produced will be decreasing, TP is decreasing. So from this laws of returns chapter, this is my suggestion. Now from revenue and cost chapter, comparison between AR and MR curves under monopoly and under monopolistic competition. Okay, then comparison of the demand curve in perfect competition, monopolistic competition, monopoly, these. Now, why is the demand curve under oligopoly market indeterminate? This is from the forms of market chapter. Why is the demand curve under oligopoly indeterminate? This can be a question. Now, from revenue part, they can give you the explanation of the nature of TR, AR and MR under perfect competition. That is quite important. Along with that, again, nature of TR, AR and MR under imperfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition. Now from cost chapter, cost part, be sure that you have understood explicit cost, implicit cost, private cost, social cost. These four mainly: explicit, implicit, private cost, social cost. They can give a small passage or some statement with respect to which, on the basis of which they can ask you a question based on these and in relation to these concepts. Why is the ABC curve U-shaped? Reason. Why is the AFC curve rectangular hyperbola? Reason. Why is the MC curve U-shaped? Reason. Why is the short run AC curve U-shaped, and also the derivation of the AC curve. Then, why is the gap between the AC and AVC? AC and AVC, initially that is larger, and slowly the gap between the AVC and AC decreases. Slowly it decreases. The reason behind that. Now, these can be from the cost part, and definitely a numerical sum is predicted. A numerical sum on cost can come this year. I presume that a numerical sum can come this year from cost. Now, theory of consumer behavior. Theory of consumer behavior, yes, they can ask again a question based on law of diminishing marginal utility. An illustrative example, a table is given, and with the help of table, you have to relate that. You may be required to relate that with the law of diminishing marginal utility. Explain the law, and a question can be given. Give two situations, state two situations in which the law of diminishing marginal utility is not applicable. How do you answer that? When the assumptions of the law of diminishing marginal utility are not applicable. Now, regarding indifference curve, I think this year indifference curve and the budget line, consumers equilibrium using indifference curve analysis, this is very important this year. So learn properties of indifference curve, MRS, slope of the indifference curve, slope of the budget line. Okay, when can budget line shift towards right? What can be the causes, like income increase, purchasing power increases, or price of both the commodities decreases, then the budget line can shift towards right. Then consumers equilibrium using indifference curve analysis, that is budget line and indifference map. What is indifference map? That thing. Now, state the condition under which or in which the consumer reaches equilibrium using indifference curve analysis. What is that? Slope of the indifference curve is equal to slope of the budget line. That means MRS is equal to Bx by Py. This can be a question. Now, about demand and elasticity of demand. Maybe point or geometric method of measuring price elasticity of demand, and also point or geometric method of measuring price elasticity of supply. These can be important. This can come, point or geometric method. Either direct question or application based question. Then, in case of supply chapter, why is the labor supply curve backward bending, or what can be the exceptions to law of supply? Similarly, exceptions to law of demand. Exceptions to law of demand. Okay, then factors affecting price elasticity of demand. This is also very important. Factors determining, factors affecting. Like suppose a particular good has many substitutes, then what will be the nature of the elasticity of demand there? Or what can be the elasticity of demand in case of cigarettes or alcohol? That means the commodities to which people are addicted, people are habitual addicted. Like this kind of question can be given based on the factors determining price elasticity of demand. Application based or HOTS question can come from movement along the demand curve and shift of the demand curve. When there is a rightward shifting, leftward shifting of the demand curve. When there is upward movement or downward movement along the same demand curve. When the own price reduces or increases or rises, then movement in the demand curve. But when the other factors are changing, then it's a case of shift of the demand, that is shift of the demand curve, rightward shifting or leftward shifting. You know the reasons why, what are the reasons for which it happens. So these can be from demand chapter, but also please do learn with proper understanding the types of demand also. Composite demand, joint demand, derived demand, ex ante demand and exposed demand, that can be very important. Ex ante demand and exposed demand. This question regarding ex ante demand, exposed to demand, this came some years back In the last few years, it did not come. So it can come. Ex-ante demand, ex-post demand. So supply, demand, elastic supply, these can be probable questions. Now, market mechanism. They can give a question where simultaneous increase in both demand and supply, or simultaneous decrease in both demand and supply. Yes, very, very important can be price ceiling and floor price. Not only that, illustrating these cases of floor price and price ceiling with diagram. What leads to, means who does it? What does this price ceiling or floor price lead to? Like excess demand or excess supply. Then what can be the possible effects of this? What can be the possible effects? Read everything with proper understanding regarding price ceiling and floor price. These. And some questions can be asked from this market mechanism chapter, which are absolutely based on your understanding of the concept, the basic concept of price mechanism or market mechanism. Demand, increase in demand, decrease in demand, increase in supply, decrease in supply, and elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. Right? So these are some of my suggestions to you which can come. I think I have tried my best to help you out. All who will be appearing in ISC Economics 2026 on Monday, 23rd of March 2026. All the best. Wish you all the best. And don't be panicked now. If you have studied well, be confident enough that whatever question comes, whatever from any chapter, whatever question comes, go through the question properly, try to understand that question, and try to relate. There are some key factors in those questions. Try to relate that question's concept with the concept that you have learned. That is a very, very important thing here. When you are reading the question, when you are going to the question, try to relate that with the concept that you have learned. You can relate which chapter. It has come from which chapter. That much ability now you have got. So this is a very important thing, a very vital thing to do. And don't waste time. Don't waste time. You must be very cautious about the time management. You have to complete the paper by writing all correct answers. I hope, I expect, I pray to God that you all will be doing very well. Thank you.